by the other. Sorry, folks, I'm having technical difficulty. Leister. You're good to go.
We're good to go. Okay, we're going to call April 2nd, 2024. This meeting is coming to order. Roll call, please.
Counselor Bayshide.
Here.
Counselor Berggren.
Here.
Counselor Martin.
Here.
Counselor Rigney.
Here.
Counselor Chancellor.
Here.
Counselor Wilson. Not present.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I know we don't have any agenda adjustments and announcements, proclamations, awards, and correspondence. I'm going to present Colleen Padilla. She is from So Ready to give us an update.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart. I'm calling to deal with So Ready, which is Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development Incorporated. I'm the executive director. We are the agency that actually serves the entire region, both Jackson and Josephine County, which is a big region. And you're one of the smaller communities, but you are as important to us as any. I don't know if you can see a slide deck or not, but I have copies for you. What I wanted to share with you today is a little bit of a report that covers 3 years, like what have we been doing over the last 3 years. And you are one of our member jurisdictions that helps pay for our capacity to do this work. So thank you very much for that. We follow a strategy that's called the One Road Valley strategy because we are one unifying region. And many years ago, you also helped fund that when we were doing that strategy. It's one roadmap. It's got 5 key initiatives, which is all the next slide, which is all about business development, which is really the hallmark of what So Ready was created to do back in 1987. It's about talent, which is workforce development and workforce training type of things. Is tourism, which happens to be one of our largest industries in this region. It is also innovation and entrepreneurship, and then placemaking, which is all about our small communities. This slide.
Sorry, it's playing on its own, so.
That's okay. I can catch up. That's the next slide anyway. So during this period of time again, which was 2020 to 2023, we wrote 27 unique support letters, and why that may be important for you to know is that we are the federally designated economic development district. So as Lily may go after a particular grant or something like that for you, if it happens to be in our strategy, then we write a support letter, and that kind of leverages your project up higher in the EDA and federal funds. So that's important to know. We wrote 27 of those in those 3 years. We've already written 12 of them this year. We also are the enterprise zone manager, and that's property tax abatement. You probably won't see one here in Gold Hill, but it matters because the rest of the region is supported by primary job creators, manufacturers. When they are creating new investments, capital investments that will get property tax and also adding 10% new jobs, they may be able to apply if they're in a very specific industry for property tax abatement, just for 3 years in most cases, and then it comes back on the tax rolls. And why? That's a program of the Oregon legislature, and why we do that is to kind of incent and help businesses get going, knowing that that new capital investment is going to be on the tax roll and can help pay for community services going forward. It includes hotel development also in our region for the sponsors. The sponsors include Jackson County, who's here, City of Medford, City of Grants Pass, and Josephine County. But essentially, any property that is zoned industrial or commercial in the region is in an enterprise zone. Okay.
Hmm.
So, but I will say that during this period of time, we did 19 different authorizations that comes to us. And then to the county, one of the two county assessors, it had a $30.6 million wage impact. And it was 120.8 million in capital investment. Those were just for those 19 authorizations during that period of time. It's $151.5 million impact to our region. I know this is the slide I'm on, caught up with me, back with me.
I'm hitting pause in between now. It's,
Thank you, Lily. So why is this important for Josephine County and Jackson County and the smallest communities to know? Is because our workforce is going both ways. It's going all over the place. In fact, 19.8% of the residents that live in Josephine County, their primary job is in Jackson County. And in Jackson County, about 5%, 6%, now I'm still back on the last data. The workforce that lives in Jackson County actually has a primary job that's in Josephine County. So if any of you are on the freeway in the morning or in the evening, you see the cars going back and forth, that's what that is. But the data gets pretty granular where we can also say how many people live in Medford, how many people live wherever. So the bigger point of that data is to say that it's a regional economy. So from our perspective, we want to celebrate a business growth and win wherever it is in our region. Because one of you or a family member is probably working at one of those companies. So that's the importance of the commuting patterns. The next slide, which is all about exporting, just a data point for you. In Jackson County, there are 213 exporting firms. This goes back to 2022 data. Data always lags a little bit, so we can catch up. And that's $224 million in export goods. And in Josephine County, it's 78 firms and about $15.9 million exported. You can probably think of some of the companies that applies to. So what did we do during the pandemic? From some perspectives, we were quiet. And I like to say it's because we were just doing the work during the pandemic, which was doing some grant administration for both Josephine and Jackson County and some other jurisdictions to get funds out the door to businesses that were impacted during that time, mostly leisure and hospitality, the restaurants. And so that was 557 businesses that we passed through grants to with someone else's money. So it's Sandy, isn't it? Somebody else's money. And that was nearly $7 million that went out to small businesses. I didn't have time to check. There were a couple of businesses, small businesses here in Boltville that also received some small assistance through those dollars. And then during the wildfire grants in Jackson County, South Jackson County, we got about $302,000 out to them. So small businesses, they are very big deals. We also have a loan program where we've operated what we call a gap financing program since 1994. And that was seeded by federal monies, EDA and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And we take a second behind someone else, a bank, to help small businesses get up and running. Sometimes it's their startup business, sometimes they're expanding. But to date, we've lent out about $23 million to small businesses. It's about 260 loan clients overall in both counties. And that's only our portion. It leveraged something else to help that business get up and running. In this reporting period that I'm talking about, we actually had 14 new loans, which is $2.4 million that we lent. And at the same time, 17 others paid off. And so that was about $1.6 million. And that's actually a good thing because if a business is taking a loan out for us for gap financing, they're paying a higher percentage rate. So if they're able to pay it off, we encourage that. It means they're doing well and they can go get better financing at less expense, right? So in those that information I was talking about with the enterprise zone, hotels are also included. So, if you know a hotelier, you have a spot here in Boltville, that hotel potentially could get property tax abatement for a few years for that new capital investment that could bring some property tax revenues to you. During this time, this reporting period, 9 hotels received property tax abatement incentives. Some of them aren't constructed yet. There's always kind of a queue of time, but that was $132.5 million in new capital investment. for the region, because we are a tourism destination.
Mhm.
And that's why that's important. In the wildfire response during that time, we had some strong partnerships. We partnered up with the United Rotary Clubs of Southern Oregon, who got some money out the door, and we helped them do that grant administration on their part. And then during this time period, somebody also set up its own foundation, because we are actually a 501c4, not a charitable organization. So we set up a foundation so that we could also solicit funding, get some grants out the door to the businesses that were hurting, because there's very little money out there, if any, for the fire impacted businesses. And one of the reasons we established that foundation also now, one of the purposes of it is we are working on establishing our own emergency response fund for businesses. So if a community asset here, like one of your stores or something like that, had a kitchen fire or something like that, and it's just down for a little bit, our hope is that we might be a resource for that one day as we get this particular grant fund going. So that was a clear need during the wildfires, which I know Commissioner Dauber can attest to with Jackson County. This is what we did during this period of time. All the things I'm talking about relates to those 5 initiatives in our strategy, the Monroe Valley strategy. The very last one that I'll talk about is placemaking. And we had some dollars. We had about $400,000 come through to So Ready during this period of time that from the EDA, and it couldn't go to businesses, it had to go to other purposes. So we actually passed through those dollars, some of those dollars to many efforts, including small placemaking grants, of which Boulevard was one of the recipients. And what you did with that money, I'm not sure who might have been on council at that time, was you did some video conferencing technology here.
I'm messing with it now.
And you're messing with it. I'm sorry. I didn't choose who. I didn't choose who. We just gave you some money to do that. But that was like Butte Falls, all the small communities. And that's what we did with that money. So we do a lot of things. What we're really chartered to do is help businesses expand, get started, and grow. And so in your packet there, I gave you one of these, and you can read about some other things we've done in more detail. Things that we assist with. We're just one business service provider in a host of many that help businesses get what they need to get done. So we have a couple of expansions going on and some other things. So I'll just stop there and ask if you have a question for me. I'm happy to entertain that and give you my best response.
Any questions, comments?
How, would a municipal, like, let's say, Little River Sewage Treatment, would they be qualified for any assistance or any, for instance, any kind of assistance?
The Rogue Valley Sewer Services?
Right.
Is that your?
No, not the Road River Sewage Treatment. Public works type,
Yeah.
city type thing.
Quite, it's possible. Whether something exists right now is another story. We can write a support letter for something. Because we're also an economic development district, we have in the past helped various jurisdictions like yours with grant funding that comes from other agencies or state and federal agencies. It wouldn't be our money. We might be able to assist you in that. So that might be helpful. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, the consent agenda. This is, I'm gonna need, someone to give me a motion to adopt the consent agenda, and which is the
We do
council
public-
meeting.
Public input.
There is none. There's people there. I have that scratched out on mine.
Oh. I'm sorry, not the public hearing right before that. Public input.
Okay.
Forgive me.
My bad. Public input.
Ed Cooper?
Thank you very much.
I need name and address, please.
My name is Gregory Walsh. My address is 13494 Highway 234. I'm not a citizen of Gold Hill.
Okay.
I've had quite a bit to do with things in Gold Hill. I was actually Noble Grand of the Odd Fellows here in town at one time. But I'm not gonna go into all of my qualifications. I'm here because I'm concerned that I don't really feel like there's an adequate opportunity or venue for volunteers to do work around the city here. I've been in the past, I've done some things. I burned a whole bunch of piles of brush one year, about a little bit earlier this in March. And I had the blessing of the city to do that. I had to sign some waivers and things. And I want to thank Bucky, I believe it was his name, was the mayor at the time, who allowed all that to happen. But here's my dilemma. I would like to volunteer to do things. I was, for example, weed eating in Lampman Park last summer during the legal time to weed eat. I had my equipment and I saw a need, so I jumped out and started doing some work. And a very nice person came by and informed me that I couldn't do that without permission. And so I stopped, and I was never able to get permission. So that's why I'm here today. I walked the bike path the other day and I did some work. I unplugged the culvert without permission, and I hope I don't get in trouble. But I really think there needs to be a mechanism whereby certain citizens can actually just step up and do something when they see the need. I was told to go to Can Do to volunteer. I talked to some people from Can Do, and I was basically told that May 18th is the day that I can volunteer to help them. So between the city and Can Do, I've been frustrated so far in getting permission to actually just act on my own when I see the need. And so that's why I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right here, sir.
Okay,
First and foremost, you need to sit down and call the city manager and
We've
set.
talked.
Okay, you've talked. And there's forms that we have you sign, but the problem that we're gonna have now is you need to be supervised. We just can't have people out there finding something to do and then cutting down neighbors' trees because they didn't like that tree. And I'm just giving you points that happened.
okay,
So it has to be supervised. It has to be gone through Lily, who's our city manager.
okay.
So that's just the process. So if you've already talked, the council can't do any more than that.
Well, I think that you could, frankly, I think you could establish a policy, a procedure, and let the public know that there's a pathway where they can step up and begin the process.
Could we ask Carol to speak about Kennedy Volunteer Fund in response to this?
I think it'd be more appropriate for me to respond.
Yes.
Of which we are working in cooperation with the volunteer hub that Can Do has sponsored, to come up with a procedure that we can have a process where volunteers can work in city properties within the guidelines. So we have regulations regarding our workers' comp. We have liabilities, different things that we have to ensure that we're required to do. And so we're doing this in a coordinated fashion that with an organization that there'll be waivers and different things on place that will have staff assigned or a responsible party at the day of the project to do stuff. So at this time, just the same as it wouldn't be appropriate for someone to walk down the street and say, I'm gonna go trim that neighbor's yard, though I'd like to. I've offered to mow people's lawns before. We have to do it in a more organized fashion. So we're working with the volunteer hub through Can Do to come up with a program where people can sign up to be a part of it, and they can even initiate, say, okay, I want to take on the trail. I'm willing to lead that project, and we'll get something going and get that going in partnership with the city. It is taking a little longer to get off the ground as we're working through some of the processes, and we're waiting for legal to get back to us on our forms, on our waivers and such to make sure that we're okay. But we also have to be careful. cities and counties just got recreational immunity back after, it took a legislative fix. We don't want anybody getting hurt. And so I'm looking forward to having the partnership with volunteers in the community that have the experience and the expertise that can come alongside us because we don't have the manpower to get it all done. So we are in process of trying to get a legitimate way of having a volunteer cooperation with the city in place.
Well, I appreciate that. And by the way, I worked a little bit for the city once, and the main task I was assigned was digging out the catch boxes where the drains are, you know. And I know that's a big job that it gets neglected. So I would volunteer to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Ed Cooper?
I'm Ed Cooper. Actually, I live on Sardine Creek. Have for a number of years. I'm presenting this at the behest of a good friend and colleague who, because of an emergency, couldn't be here tonight to present her own letter. I'm going to read her short statement. The county is asking you to proclaim that it is in the best interest of your citizens to impose this specific perpetual service district and tax for a shelter that, if you scrutinize the pro forma, which I provided, will find homes for half the number of the dogs who got adopted last year. I have had growing concerns about the state of the animal shelter, and I should mention that the way I know this lady is from my concerns about the animal shelter for over 2 years, attending meetings, making public records requests, providing statements and proposals to the commissioners. I only hit brick walls. The process which produced the proposal before you today was hidden, non-transparent, and put together at the last minute. It was not shared with the Animal Control Advisory Committee, and at their last meeting, I asked about the status of planning a new shelter. I was publicly ridiculed by a commissioner for asking that question, and unsurprisingly got no answer. There are many flaws, inconsistencies in the materials you have been given, and a lot of key information withheld. For example, where are the other options alluded to last week when only one proposal was advanced for public consideration? The analogy to libraries is obvious. Where is the special district option? Note that the commissioners themselves have consciously made no formal decisions. All of the decisions, all of the choices have been made by non-elected administrators. We need to take a serious look at a better, less costly options. The administrator has explained that when municipal entities take custody of animals, the county houses them free of charge. But the free ride may end. This was described as a few $100,000. Nothing in this tax proposal is going to guarantee Gold Hill the continued use of the new shelter, or address a small outlying towns like Gold Hill, Eagle Point, Shady Cove, as well as other rural areas are going to be subsidizing Medford and the other central cities. There's nothing in it which will guarantee our residents access on a reasonable basis. The new district will be controlled by the commissioners and the same bureaucracy. Last August, they increased the 3-year dog license fee for seniors and veterans, that's me, by 75%. I can't afford to go adopt a dog today to replace the one who died 2 years ago. Rescue group permits are up 142%. So if somebody wants to form an animal rescue group, the county wants $315 permit for a volunteer group. Abandoned kittens and puppies are up 800%. And there is nothing in this proposal which will prevent further exorbitant increases. It now costs $250 to adopt a puppy. So a lot of people are being priced out. They can afford to feed a puppy, they can afford to take it to the vet, but they don't have a spare $250 laying around to go adopt one. Okay. This proposal was released just 1 week ago. Gold Hill, first city urged to sign up. What are other options? What happens if you say yes and all the other cities in the county say no? The papers I gave for Malia and the rest of you have a transcript of those meetings when this was put together. Voters deserve better than this, than a take it or leave the ballot proposal. We deserve the county's firm commitment to open up an accessible public process to give options a meaningful analysis and ensure that we the people, not the bureaucracy,
Your
are
5 minutes
in
is
the
up.
proper course.
Your 5 minutes is up.
Okay.
But your point was well made.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
No.
Okay. So now we have the consent agenda, which is the minutes, the council meeting dated from February 6th, 24 to March 5th, 24. And I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda. I'll second it.
Any questions? Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Bishop,
Yes.
Counselor Berggren, Counselor Martin,
Yeah.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Stankler,
Yeah.
motion carries.
Okay, great. Next item we have is the action items, and that's the resolution 24-9, information of the county service district for animal control. And Commissioner, Rick Dyer.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, City Manager Moore, good to see you. And I'm gonna tell you, if you want to mow anybody's lawn, you have full permission to mow mine anytime. Okay? If that ever comes up again.
I got it recorded, so it's on.
Excellent, anytime.
It's a witness too.
Yeah, exactly. Remember this, right? It's on the record. We are here tonight actually to talk to you about participating in the proposed animal control service district. We're not asking you to approve it. We're not asking you to deny it. We're asking you to participate in the district, which allows your voters here in Gold Hill, yeah, we're in Jackson County as well, to determine for themselves if that cost benefit analysis on providing the funding to be able to construct adequate facility and to be able to run it meets with their ability to pay. You know, it's up to the voters to decide if that's a cost benefit analysis they can accept. That's what we're asking you to approve today, is to be a part of that district that in November will go to the voters, along with hopefully every other municipality and the unincorporated areas of Jackson County, to determine if it's something that Jackson County residents want and are willing to pay for. Simple as that. As far as this concept and the feasibility, this is something we've been discussing for years. This isn't something that just was churned out over a week. The need has been realized and various issues or solutions have been discussed. We wanted to come to you with a fully formed feasibility study with a fully formed proposal. That's why we're here tonight. We have been dealing with underfunding of the shelter and therefore an inability to serve as we'd like to, but we've been augmenting that and actually using one-time funding, general fund reserves for ongoing expenses, which is not sustainable, as you know. So we're looking for a sustainable option. We're looking for something, creation of a district that allowed the construction of an adequate facility. Right now, if you've been to our facility, it's old. It's not serving the purpose anymore, so we want to present an option to voters. To be able to say, yeah, we think it's important to have an adequate facility and to be able to take care of dogs, which are our statutory responsibility, and cats, which are a statutory responsibility, but again, something voters should decide for themselves if they feel that's something that they want to pay for. It's up to the voters to decide these things, and when we can allow voters to weigh in, we do that. Again, the sustainability, we would have to, if this is something that wasn't able to be accomplished, we would have to right-size our operations. We would have to even probably cut back further what we've been doing because our funding model is not sustainable. This again would allow for us to be able to build an adequate facility and operate it in a way that I think is, again, it's definitely more sustainable and probably something I think most Jackson County residents see as valuable. I'm going to let our staff go over some of the details of the operation, but I wanted to introduce it and again, ask for your, again, not support to pass the district, but support to allow your voters to take part in the decision. So thank you.
I have a question though.
Sure.
Real fast. So this would be a special election.
No, it would be during the November general election.
Okay, so that would, it wouldn't be on the city to
No,
fund that
no
election.
expense to the city as far as referring this to the ballot that the county is going to do. And again, I'll let our staff get into the details of that, but we're not asking you to participate financially, just to allow your voters to participate electorally. Any other questions before? Yeah.
Just one quick, what is stopping the voters in Jackson County from voting on it without making a special district?
Well, so for one, the millage is determined by the tax base that would be paying it.
Mhm.
If the municipalities weren't involved in the district and it was only the unincorporated areas of Jackson County, that millage, in my estimation, would probably have to be 4 or 5 times. Again, these are estimates, but 4 or 5 times that. So it's something that, again, even though it's a service that the whole county does benefit from, we need a place to take straight up. We need a place to be able to adopt them out and provide the services that I think you're obviously aware that again, the shelter does provide. But that's why. And this would be again, a countywide service. So we're looking for the entire county to take part in the actual district.
But isn't it already a countywide service?
It is a countywide service, and as you probably know, county revenues come from the entire county. So the entire county is paying for it now. It's just a more direct way, and again, a way to establish sustainable funding. What we're receiving right now, what we're able to do is not sustainable. And that's why we're asking again, all we're asking the municipalities to do is to allow their citizens to take part in this process and decide for themselves if this is something they see the value of, and they're willing to pay what is needed to do it. So, thank you. Anything else? Yeah, Melissa, come on.
Good evening, and I'll take you up on lawn mowing as well.
I am.
Thank you for having us. My name is Melissa Dodd. I'm the Deputy Director of Health and Human Services. And I've been overseeing the shelter for about the last 2 years with some managers on the staff. So obviously we're the only publicly operated animal shelter in the county. Our animal control functions are overseen by Chapter 609 of the Oregon Revised Statute. That requires us sometimes to impound dogs. Most of the times the dogs are impounded for a variety of reasons, including a bite to a citizen, and the owner can't successfully quarantine the animal on their own. So we do that at the shelter. If there's a citizen that's been being hospitalized and they don't have anybody else to take care of the animal, then we impound those animals for them. Evictions, arrests, and then of course, animals that are evidence animals in a cruelty case rather than a neglect case. So those are the main reasons why we impound dogs. And of course, there is no provision for us to have to do that with cats. We do quarantine cats on occasion as well, and we have taken cats for all the other reasons as well. So our current facility, I guess that's not going, so hopefully you have the presentation in front
Oh,
of you.
just let me know when you want me to go.
Oh, okay, sure. So our current facility is 50 years and plus older. I think it was originally built prior to 1975, and then there were some additions that occurred. And so our current capacity, when I say current capacity, what I mean is actual kennels that the dogs are in. So whatever the space is, you know, whatever the size of that kennel, we have 86 of those right now. We're usually over capacity. And there are no modern amenities in the current facility, so it's very antiquated. And there are a lot better options for the animals if we were to update the facility. So I think there's, you want to move next, there's a couple pictures of the current adoption kennels. We have 26 of those. So as the animals come to us and go through the process of evaluation and all the things that we do to get them ready for adoption. Then we have 26 kennels. They're all indoor. There's no outdoor kennels at the current facility. And then when we're over our capacity, we have animals everywhere, to be honest. So this is a picture of it was a picture of Sunday, actually. I was at the shelter. And we had on Friday, 16 animals brought to us from a rural area. And so that's part of what happens. They get put in little crates and they have to be in the hallway. And that's not ideal. That obviously the more confined space for the animals, it's a lot harder to clean those animals rather than the kennels themselves. And those animals are actually exposed to a lot more disease because there's no barriers around them, and animals are walking by them all day to go in and out of the shelter. So the next slide is kind of our census, if you will. I went back from 2018, so I tried to do a little bit of pre-pandemic, I guess is how you'd say it. And so I did from January of 2018 to March of 2024, and I looked at it quarterly. That was, I didn't want to get too granular. So if you can see the gray line there, that is the kennel dogs. And as you can see from July of 2020, it's been a very consistent increase over the last several years of dogs that have been steadily coming into the shelter. As of today, we actually have 122 dogs. There were 4. I got text right as I was coming here that we had 4 more impounds. So obviously the more animals we have and the longer that they're in our care, that impacts the length of stay of the animals. Which is a goal of ours, is to minimize the length of stay. That's obviously the best care for the animals. It's really unfortunate when they're in our care for long periods of time for a variety of reasons, their behavior, potential disease, all of those things. So we do hold evidence animals, and what that means is if there's a case against an owner for a criminal matter, we have to hold those animals at the shelter until the court can go through that process with the owner. I don't know if any of you are aware of the situation with the courts, but they are very long process to get a hearing and get counsel assigned and all of those things. So an example, we just thankfully had an attorney get assigned to one of the owners that we had evidence, one dog and 5 cats. They were at our shelter for over 200 days, and at $30 a day, that's almost $40,000. So there's obviously no way that an owner is going to be able to come up with that money. And so we end up having these animals in the facility for that long and then basically having them turned over to us anyway with no payment. And we aren't required to hold the evidence dogs for other than our own jurisdiction. So why now? Obviously, we're having a lot of overcrowding. The current facility that we're at has really no room for expansion. We have orchard behind us. We don't have a picture of that unfortunately, but we have orchard behind us. We have community justice on one side of us, and then on the other side is residents. So there's really no room for expansion. We desperately need spay and neuter capacity in the shelter. We currently are taking all of the animals. We don't adopt an animal unless they're spay or neutered. And we're currently transporting them to about 3 different veterinaries for care out in the community. So it would be really, really beneficial to us and impact the length of stay for the animals if we could spay and neuter them in-house. And of course, modern facilities have kennels that are indoor, outdoor, so the animal can be out and in when they want, and when we clean it, we can move them back and forth from out to the indoor. So I think Commissioner Dyer covered that, our current revenue source is not sufficient and it isn't sustainable. A couple of the reasons for that is, I don't know if you're aware, but we are no longer able to use the what we call work crew indentured servants or some. What's the
inmates who've been sentenced.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know what it's called. What we called it was the work crew. And so they would come from community justice and they would have what they call a crew boss. And they would, you see them out, I think on the roads and stuff, you used to see them out on the road. So they would come and they would help us clean the kennels. And that all went away.
Alternate custody programs.
There you go. Thank you. That's a much better way to say it. And so we no longer have access to that. We have developed a position to hire to do that. So they become full-time equivalents for us. And we have not been able to successfully staff that position. We've had that position now for about 1.5 years, and we have had constant turnover. They come every day, and their sole job is to clean the kennels after they move. And when we have 122 and that many kennels, it's almost not doable. And then the other thing that has really changed is, again, I don't know if you have animals and have tried to get them into veterinary care, but it is changed dramatically. Their lead times are very long and the costs have gone up significantly. And that is what we have to pay to get the services done as well. So I think the ask of the cities, and I think Commissioner Dyer covered it very well, is that we're asking you to pass a resolution to be included in the district and allow the voters to vote and decide if the shelter is something that they are interested in having in supporting. I think the next slide explains a bit about the median values of the market value and the assessed values. As I was looking at that, if the home value of is in the median of the Gold Hill area, that would be about $22.44 a year for a homeowner. So the will of the Jackson County citizens to fund the Animal Control Service District to pay for the new facility and the cost of operating the facility will be determined by the scope of the project. And if it doesn't, if the district doesn't pass, or if the district passes, we'll be constructing a new facility. There are very, very high level conceptual designs right now that I think, as the gentleman pointed out, have a lot of input that needs to be given. And that's because we're just at the very early phases to see if it's even feasible to try to move forward with the project. The anticipated district would generate about $3.5 million of revenue to fund the shelter long term. And
Per year.
Yes, that's right.
okay. And should the Everett Town County would have enough space to plan for the future for both cats and dogs. Right now, we aren't able to take cats. We haven't been able to take cats. We don't have enough staff to care for them and care for the dogs in the way that we need to. And we're required to do dogs. We're not required to do cats. So if the district should fail, we would consider moving forward with a new facility, but there would be no guarantee, obviously, to that. And the shelter would likely be designed for just dogs, not to house cats as well. And we would probably need to make some adjustments to the fees. As I spoke, in particular, the evidence animals are quite expensive to house. And we've been absorbing that cost at this point. So we would, the vision would be to get a shiny, new, beautiful, modern shelter, and there would be funds to both build it and operate it. If you are, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the shelter is currently at Talent, and the proposed site is in what do we call that area? Medford. It's out kind of around the airport area, and it has it's very centrally located. Right now we're in Talent, and so our animal control officers spend a lot of time when they impound a dog going from, you know, out here all the way to Talent to harness the dog. And so this would be more centrally located. And there is definitely room, it appears to me, for expansion at the new site. Mine are really small, that one's a lot better. It's obviously there's a big piece of property there that would be.
And that's that whole perforated line there is what the county's thinking about picking up. Pardon me?
That right there.
Yes.
Sorry, Joel Benton, I'm the county attorney and the deputy county administrator. So the county owns that property already.
Oh,
So
okay.
we will not have to spend any of the district's money purchasing the land, because the county already owns the land. As you can see, it's a very large parcel. Should the citizens of Jackson County someday support building a jail, that's likely where the jail will be located. That's why that property was originally purchased, but it's huge. And so we can put a bunch of different services out there.
I thought that looked familiar because Stickler, when he was proposing the new jail. Now, my next question is on the total project capital cost is 15 million. Now, that's the budget just for construction.
Yes, and I.
So what's the rest of the numbers? Why can't we have an in-house veterinarian service for that type of facility? Why can't we have our own professionals working in there? If we're gonna build something like that magnitude, we need to take care of and I'm all for what you're saying. I'm just saying, I'd like to see the whole proposal
Yes.
before I make a decision, because
Can I give you some context? So it's expensive to come up with actual blueprints and designs and all of that. So when we're part of the process when forming a service district, and I can address some of Mr. Cooper's questions as well as if you'd like me to. So part of the process to form a service district under the statute is we have to show that it's feasible, that what we want to do can be supported by the rate that we want to levy. So as Melissa was saying, this is not the final design of what it is. This is simply a schematic that shows that we're going to have enough program space somewhere in the building to provide the services that we're providing. So you could spend, you know, $500,000, $700,000 putting together actual blueprints of a building, actual designs of the building, coming up with the programmatic way in which all the various positions are going to be filled in the building. So we don't want to spend that money. The county has, you know, we're just like Gold Hill in the sense that we basically spend all of our revenue every year, and we bank some, but we don't have a lot of ongoing revenue. So we want to make sure that the citizens of Jackson County, including the citizens of Gold Hill, are interested in paying the property tax part of this levy as a service district before we go put all the money in designing a full-fledged facility that we're proposing. If the citizens of Jackson County and Gold Hill reject it, then we'll have to, as Melissa was saying, we'll have to look at other alternatives about right-sizing our program based upon the amount of revenue that we have. And then we'll spend the money to design and build all those facilities. So this is just to show, and if you take a look, I can walk over there, but you should have in front of you as well. It's simply to show that there's going to be, you know, indoor, outdoor kennel space. There's going to be office space. There's going to be room for food pantries. There's going to be room for tech works. There's dedicated spaces for cats. The county would love to hire a veterinarian if you guys know of any who are looking for employment. So that's a part of all of what we're looking, you know, we're trying to build and proposing a full service animal control shelter facility, with the service district. And so that's what we're focused on. But as Mr. Cooper was saying, there's not, scrutinizing the details. There's not really details to scrutinize. We're just trying to show that it's feasible to do, that we have a blueprint, that we have a programmatic space to provide the programs that we want to provide, that we have the funding source to provide for the various personnel that may be needed to run the facility. So I agree, it would be great to have a full-fledged thing that we're going to do, but that again takes time and money to do, and it's taken 2 years to get to here. I know it seems like the last minute we showed up and now we're asking you to do something and there hasn't been a lot of participation. But it's been reported in the paper. We've been working to bring this proposal and this concept for your consideration, the consideration of the other cities. That's what we've been working on. To go to some of his questions, it's not really last minute. It wasn't a hidden process. Again, we're just trying to show that it's financially viable. Like, is the district financially viable with the rate that we're proposing to levy if all the cities participate and the services we want to provide? For other options, Mr. Cooper mentioned a special district for library. That was a special district could be formed, but that, the library is a really good example. That was the citizens of Jackson County who came together to form a special district. That wasn't the county. That was the citizens coming together to form their own government to run the libraries within Jackson County, which is a little bit different than the county asking to sort of create a service district, which the Board of Commissioners serves as the board that has to help supplement the county services. Melissa mentioned evidence animals. Most of a lot of our evidence animals don't necessarily come from Medford. They come from, honestly, the rural parts of the community, the rural cities. A lot of them have to do with there's marijuana. Like we take a lot of dogs from illegal grow sites. There's a lot of dogs that need to be taken there that we have to take as part of evidence for cases, or we just need to shelter them because those dogs have to go somewhere. And there isn't that's not a long-term. We don't have long-term resources to just keep doing that. And so it wasn't like all of a sudden, that we're coming out of nowhere to ask for your support, the city's support for this facility. We've been working on it, and we keep, eventually you just keep getting rocks piled on top of you, and eventually, the whole building comes down because not that shelter's going to come down, but we it's been the loss of the alternative sentencing people. It's been the additional cost in the vets. It's been the dramatic increase in the number of dogs. Our inability to provide for cats that we've now, run out of extra resources for the county to keep funding this out of our general fund. And so that's why we're here today. So it's not a one day we all woke up and a week later decided to come and ask the cities for help. Like we've been building to come to ask you. And as the mayor pointed out, this election's in November 2025. It's April 2nd. Right. I mean, we're 6 months out before there's going to be an election. So there is going to be time for the community to talk about this and educate the voters so that the voters have a discussion and a chance to decide if they want to support this.
So my question is though, is you're going to fine tune that 15 million, that's just for the project. That will go up, I'm taking it. So when we present this to the public, we're going to have true numbers.
So if you look at the back of the document, so I don't think it's in the proposal, but it's probably in the packet I gave you. There's an 11-year pro forma that shows how the actual revenue from the district, projected revenue, right? Because who knows what's going to happen in 11 years. So it's a projected revenue and expense. And so if you look, it's like a 11 by 17 Commissioner version of the powder.
It's page 15 in your packet. Oh, no, never mind.
Yes. So if you look at the front part of that, for the first 2 years, we're not going to be putting money towards the collection from the service district into running the facility because we haven't built it yet.
Right.
And so for the first 2 years, we're going to be banking that money and spending that money to build it. The district's not going to collect enough money to build it and spend it, but the district is going to collect enough money so that we can partially offset the cost of bonds. We would likely use revenue bonds from the district to fully finance the cost of it. And again, it's a guess. It's $15 million.
we think we can build a facility that's gonna meet the needs of the community and of the citizens. So
Mhm.
is the cost gonna go up? Probably not. We're gonna build a facility that we can build for the money that we have available. And if you have questions about construction and sort of estimating of that, Ryan from our facilities maintenance program is here. Brian builds lots of buildings and he's got a lot of, you may have heard other buildings we're building, we're looking at building a sort of emergency center, community center out at the expo facility. So like we've got some experience in building. So we think we can build a building for $15 million. And that the revenue, we talked $3.5 million a year over 10 years is more than 15 million. That's to offset the additional cost to run the shelter. But if you look at that pro forma, the county's not proposing to stop spending general fund money on the facility itself. We're going to keep putting into the facility what we've been putting into it the whole time. We just don't have any extra money to keep carrying. And so that's why we're asking for the service district. So yeah, the county's not looking for the service district to fund the shelter completely or the animal control program completely. We're still going to be putting county money into it. This is to get that extra incremental cost of running that new shelter paid for through the service district. We all run into the problem, with Measure 50 was great for property owners. It makes it really hard to run a government.
Can I do just a clarification? Because even if the cost of building this goes up, the 15 cents cannot.
Correct.
Legally, when
Okay.
we go up for 15-cent millage, we cannot go above that. That's the permanent rate limit. We can go below it, but we cannot go above 15 cents. So what you'll be proposing to your voters is 15 cents per thousand,
Okay,
no matter what the cost of building or.
that's all I needed to hear is
Okay, I'm fine.
how are we gonna present this to the
Yeah,
public?
It
If we
is,
send out newsletters on what's coming up, and that's down the road, we'll probably end up having a workshop and putting our heads together on this. So I agree that we do need this facility. I spent time with Kim, who's been and in court with Kim over many cases that we've had here in Gold Hill. So it's, but I also agree that we need a new jail facility too. So, it's times are just getting worse and that's where we're at.
Do you still put dogs down?
so we try not to, and Melissa probably can answer this better, but I will tell you, we try not to put dogs down. We try to adopt them out of private homes. There are some dogs who, because of behavioral or other issues, aren't rehomable. But the goal is to not put dogs down.
Yeah, I just know when you said you took some drug down, I those pit bulls that they're mean dogs, they can't be retrained. Look,
Well, it's not just
So-
pit.
Yeah, we have a process that, is, after 5 days, we take ownership of the animal if the owner hasn't come and claimed them.
Mhm.
And then we go through an evaluation process that includes our contract veterinarian. We do have 2 contract veterinarians.
Okay.
Currently, we did have a position, we weren't successful at being able to recruit it, but, so we have 2 contract vets. So they go through a process of evaluation that's about 10 days. There's, ASPCA guidelines and best practices that they use to evaluate the animals. We have obviously, medical and behavioral issues that come up. After the, evaluation period, then depending on where the animal is, they'll either go into a holding of waiting to get spay and neutered. We are actually down to about a 2-week cycle of getting animals spay and neutered because we do have some really good contacts in the community with veterinarians. So our average kind of length that a typical animal is going to go through that comes to the shelter is about 30 to 45 days before they become adoptable. And that's us assessing them, determining whether they are going to be able to be adoptable by the general owner. We use that as our standard of determining adoptability. And then we have what we call, the volunteers do play groups with them. So as they are waiting for their spay and neuter, or if there's concerns that we have, the dogs go out to the play groups and those volunteers give us feedback about what things we need to be worked on with that animal. And sometimes the animals might end up going to what we call a holding crew because their behavior might be a little bit more than the play groups can handle. And those are volunteers that are a little bit more specialized in behavioral. So there is quite a process that's gone through to determine whether an animal is going to be adoptable or not. When we're at 122 dogs, you know, we are going to have to euthanize some dogs. And so our approach to that, it's not the next dog that comes in. You know, it's not like we're closed. We still assess them. We still make determination about their adoptability, but we really look at all the animals that are in our care. And if there's ones that are really challenged and we need to do a lot more work with them because before we could even determine whether they're going to be able to be adopted, those are the ones that then we kind of have to make a determination about so that we have space. And it's very hard on the staff and it's very hard on us.
Well, I believe in capital punishment, so I don't think it's that hard of a case. If the dog is rabid, you know, it has to be put down, but I'm the same way with humans too.
Well, the counselor.
Yes.
So, isn't there kind of a movement towards, animal shelters being, handled by volunteer groups as opposed to counties? Like, didn't Klamath completely just turn over their animal shelter to a volunteer group?
And I think there is a movement towards, however, even the volunteer groups still need the revenue to run it. You know, we've never been approached by a volunteer group who's willing to take it over, just sight unseen to run it without our revenue. I don't think we've been approached by a volunteer group who's been willing to take it over completely. Douglas County is a very good example of people say, oh, Douglas County spends very minimal money. Douglas County has my understanding is Douglas County has a very rich benefactor who has decided that he wants to put his money into the running of Douglas County's animal shelter. So that's how Douglas County, you may hear they're kind of a great things about Douglas and Klamath. They have individuals who are volunteering and donating their money to help run those shelters. We have lots of rescues within our community, both for cats and dogs, that the shelter works with to try to place them in other places. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, we're sort of the last stop. So Humane can pick a dog. I don't want to take a dog, or I do want to take a dog based upon adoptability or whatever. So Humane can say we're full, no more dogs. The county runs the only, as Melissa was saying, publicly funded facility, public ran facility. We can't turn away those types of animals that need impounding. And so that's where we step in, and, you know, the government sort of provides that service that the private sector, the nonprofit service can't provide. If a nonprofit approaches, we'd be happy to discuss.
And they probably want a new shelter before they do. Just to be honest, I mean, it's, you know, it's not updated out.
And, you all worked with Friends of the Animal Shelter, right?
Yes.
Okay, what is their position? Can you tell me about
So Friends of the Animal Shelter has a new president, Bob Crowley. He just met with Stacy Brubaker, who is our Director of Health and Human Services, along with the Commissioner Dodderer. What came out of that meeting is FOTUS is willing to work with the county to support this proposal. So they're not opposed to it. They're willing to work with us to propose it. You may have heard there is Mr. Cooper indicated that there is one person who seems to be opposed. We were told by FOTUS, or I should say Commissioner Dodder was told, I wasn't there, that she does not speak for FOTUS. She is not a representative of FOTUS. She does not speak for FOTUS. This is her own opinion on the viability of the service district, and FOTUS is willing to work with us to support it. They want to support the animals. That's why they're there.
And I worked with their executive director for over a year now, and she has she resigned. Her last day, I think, is this coming Friday. But she has alluded to that as well, that that individual doesn't speak on her behalf.
Have you guys thought about, I mean, Mr. Cooper brought up the high fees for seniors and veterans and so on. Have you guys discussed anything that might be able to help that community out?
So most of our fees are based upon the cost of our services,
Right.
and as you saw, like, we're trying to charge the least amount of fee that we can based upon the services that we provide. In fact, and this is kind of a unique thing within the county, while there is a cost to adopt a dog, the adoption fee is the one fee under our county ordinance that is allowed to be waived. And so we do have, like, basically a waiver, we have, it's not a kitten shower, there's something else that we call it, where the facility does waive the adoption fee. So that is sort of the rack rate, as the hotel room would say, of what it would cost to adopt a dog. But there are frequently times when that fee is waived, which also impacts how much revenue we have to then run. It's kind of that perpetual cycle of we need fees to run the revenue to get to run the shelter, but then the shelter gets full, so we waive the fees, but then we don't have the revenue. So that's why, one of the reasons why we're looking for this service district to help get that stable source of revenue, so we don't have to sort of have that up and down reliance upon fees.
In particular, the two fees that he was mentioning, Joel covered the adoption fee, and what we're currently doing is if an animal has been there a certain amount of time, so if it's over 75 days, it's waived to be a $75 dog, and then if it's over 100 days, it's a free dog. And then on the licensing fees in particular, which we do offer senior and veteran discount, last year I went through and looked at all of the county fees, all the other counties in the state, and looked at their fees and looked at where we were at in relation to the population of those counties. And we're really right in the middle. So I use that as my guide on how to establish the county, because that one is, it's a license fee. It's not equated to our actual time that we spend with the animals or anything like that. So it's kind of not cost based, but it is market based. And I did that evaluation last year.
Any other questions, council?
As far as law concerned, I knew an elderly people that had their mouth so old it couldn't move anymore. And they couldn't afford to take it in and pay the price to put it down. So they started all saying that I can't go put it down for them.
You in particular?
I have no idea. I mean, if you like, I'm lawyer for the county. I can't be your lawyer. I'll get that out of the way. Not that I'm aware of, but if that there is, I mean, depending on how you.
I heard a rumor you can't shoot cats.
Well,
Correct, there is, correct.
no,
There is a state law
Yes.
that would be animal cruelty, and
Yes.
that is a crime.
So
if you were turned in or no.
And
the same way if a dog that's old and can't move no more, you can't put it down.
let's talk offline.
Yeah.
I too agree that I'd love to see it bring the shelter, I'd love to see it
Mhm.
brand new things all around. My there's probably a simple answer to this too. I don't really understand what you need from us. Other than, or why isn't it just a measure on the ballot for the general election for the county?
So and it's because of how the Oregon law requires us to establish a service district. So a service district can be established by the county. However, under state law, if there's property within a city, it can only be in the service district if the city council passes a resolution allowing it to be in the service district. So that's why we've approached all the cities. We want your support, please understand that. But it's because before the commissioners are allowed to even start the process of the service district formation, we have to get the cities to identify if they're willing to be a part of the territory. So that's why we can't just throw it on the ballot to create a service district without coming to the cities. It's because you sort of hold the key as the city council as to whether or not the territory of Gold Hill will also be included in the service district.
That brings me back to the same question I had earlier. Why do we need a service district? Why, since we already have a county, we have this facility, why are we trying to make a special district? Why, when we already encompass all? That doesn't make sense, but not apples for apples.
It's a very good question. Thank you for asking. And the issue is that the county, much like Gold Hill, our permanent rate limit, what we can charge in property tax is limited by Measure 50. The county is capped at $2.01 a thousand. I don't know what Gold Hills is. So the issue is that hasn't changed since Measure 50 was passed. Costs keep going up and up. In fact, I think that we know our standard budget is that we think that property tax revenue is going to go up about 3.5% a year. Costs go up about 7%. So really, as a county and as a city, you're kind of always behind the eight ball trying to cut because things cost more than the money you have coming in. And the answer for the service district is right now the services that for the animal shelter that we think that the community wants dogs and evidence dogs and cats and the cities want us to be able to bring and hold those animals when they're taken from marijuana grows or from abused and neglected situations. We just don't have the general property tax revenue to keep doing that. And so a service district is the one way under Oregon law that allows us to get some dedicated funds to run that service.
And to clarify, versus a levy that would have an expiration.
Correct.
Service district is the county's way of doing a permanent state funding towards this dedicated cause that can't be routed to something else.
Correct. Yes, that is important. So when we're asking you to pass 15 cents for the animal control service district, that money can only be used for the animal control services district. We can't funnel that off to the sheriff's office or any of the other county functions. It is guaranteed dedicated funding for the service.
And we already don't pay something like that, or is that, we don't?
There is no dedicated funding for animal control services.
And what happens to the city if we don't?
So that's a very good question. So what will happen is, the law is a little interesting in the sense that we can't, as I was saying, the county can't start our process until we know if the cities are in or not. So we're going to come to each of the 11 cities and you're going to have to make your decision, and Medford and Jacksonville all are going to have to do. Once we know what cities are going to decide or city councils are willing to be in the service district, that's when the board will have to make the determination. Do we have enough territory at 15 cents to run it? If enough cities say no, then we're not going to have the service district simply, is Commissioner Dyer saying, to ask the city, the unincorporated taxpayers to pay it would be probably too big of an ask. So that's the answer is if the cities say no, we probably won't move for the service district, and that's when we're going to have to look at other options to right size our operations based upon how much money we have.
Do all the cities have to agree, or, I mean, are you just looking for a certain number?
We would like every city benefits, all the citizens of the city benefits. We want every city to participate as a countywide district. I'll be honest, our projections are based upon all the cities agreeing to participate. Bigger cities are going to have bigger impact on the amount of revenue we bring in, but really the 15 cents is based upon every city participating.
Okay, councilors, it's in your court. Now, this is on the resolution 24. Joel, Melissa, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This is on the resolution 24-09. I'm assuming that we have no more questions. So what I'm going to say is I will entertain a motion regarding this resolution. If you want to.
We have to take it up tonight.
Are you asking to table it?
Can we make a motion to table it?
What's the time frame that you need a response from the cities?
The first week of May to make our timeline to get on the November ballot. So if you're having another meeting in May.
So our meeting in May is after their deadline, and that's why we rushed to get it on tonight's agenda. If I could, may I ask a clarifying question before you
Yes.
accept a motion? So, you mentioned that there may have to be a fee to cities for services. How would that be incorporated, as somebody responsible for the city's budget here?
So it's so if the service district passes, we would be looking to provide all of those services within the value of the service district. It's if the service district doesn't pass, then things like evidence animals coming from cities, we're going to have to look at getting, is Melissa saying, the $40,000 to hold a dog and 5 cats from a city. We're going to have to look at the city if they want to use our facility to board them to pay that to us, so that we have the money to provide the care for those animals. So those are the types of fees that we're looking at if the district fails, not if the district passes.
So to provide an example, should in the city limits of Gold Hill, a dog attacked a child and was held for evidence before a hearing? Or the hearing would be for the dog to either be put down or to be, something like that. You would have to hold that until the court hearing and everything else was there, and you're saying that the goal of the county would to forward those costs to the city
I think what we would say is.
if the district were not in place.
I think that is one of the options that we would have to look at to figure out how to get the revenue to pay for those services.
If this didn't pass, okay.
Yes, if it passes, then that's the revenue we need to keep doing all the stuff we've been doing.
It's okay.
I hate to get a little bit nitpicky, but it seems like financially, fiscally, we could do a cost benefit analysis on what that would be. It would be theoretical. Like your example of the child being attacked by a dog downtown for quite a while would be a lot of money, but we don't know how much money we would be spending on services.
The problem, if I may, I will tell you that in a previous job I had, I was the liaison to the public health department for another county and liaison for animal shelter. We were also the dog control board, so if the hearing happened, it came before us. We had situations where dogs were held over a year waiting for trial. The courts are pretty backed up, to the point that when I was in the legislature, our judiciary committee was trying to take on, how do we incentivize getting more lawyers, or we're under lawsuit to let people out of the state hospital. The courts are backed up. The county has no say over letting those dogs go. So they have to keep those by court order, by law, until that court case. And you can never guess when that would happen.
And who does the shelter send the bill for that to?
So, and that's the question, is potentially, what we heard is that the city, since it happened in our city limits, potentially would have to say, that's under your jurisdiction, we're holding it for you, as they're not required to, is what we've heard testimony of. I would offer that, the city, our staff, has had to contact animal control just in the last month. And so it is, yes, a countywide service. However, what does that service level be? So I just want to clarify for you as our council, the resolution before you, the resolves, is that you are allowing the city to be included into the boundaries of the proposed district. Therefore, your citizens would have a say over the vote over where it goes forward or not. And you're not saying I support, you're not saying anything else. You're saying we would allow us to be in the district and your citizens would have a say in the vote. If you're not included in the district, your citizens would also not have a vote.
Same thing on the pipeline. You're putting it in the citizens' hands.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. I agree.
Okay. So are we moving forward, councilors? I need a motion.
I make
We are.
a motion, we accept it, resolution 2409.
I'll second.
Any questions? All right, I have a motion. I have a second. Roll call.
Counselor Bouchard,
Yes.
Counselor Bergren,
No.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Stancliff.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I just want to let the counselors know this was going to happen regardless, because it's been a major problem. It's just like the jail, it's something that's going to have to be taken care of. So I thank you, counselors, for your decisions tonight on that. Under action items, we have financial fees and policies. I'm gonna turn it over to Lily. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
It was nice. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to meet you finally. Commissioner, thank you very much. Good night.
She used to be Chippy County.
I,
That was hard.
I do acknowledge,
That was hard.
I want to acknowledge that is probably one of the hardest things and decisions a city council ever faces, is putting something through to your constituents to vote on. It is not something that's easy, and I know you guys have weighed that difficult decision. It's part of why I sent you the information early as well. I appreciate the questions that you have asked, their point on. And the good thing is the voters of Jackson County will get to say yay or nay.
When we get a chance to vote on.
No, only the cities that are included in the district will have a say to vote. So that
And
is,
that was the swaying thing for me.
Mhm.
That was, I came against it tonight, frankly, honestly. But when I realized, that we will, the citizens will get a vote, then I'm in favor of letting the citizens decide.
And that's,
That's kind of the way it came down. Bob.
and actually it's a buffer. Because we're just 6, 7 people here. Okay, but we're also spokespeople for the citizens. So the best thing to do is let the citizens make, and now it's off your shoulders. But it has to come. It is just like we know when the next issue with Stickler comes in, the county sheriff. Stickler, excuse me. I call him Stickler. But anyway,
So just a comment, I didn't understand, that's why I asked that question, do they put it all down? It's on an incline, so we're gonna build a big building. We're gonna build a bigger one and a big one, when do we?
Lily said she'll answer that offline, and I can answer that, but when we're offline here, let's continue on with, our meeting. Lily?
I wanted to let the council know of a decision that I made on behalf of the city, budgeting wise, and bring it before you as a council, that, our city is, any payments that are done for any of our city services online, the city has been eating the fee of 3% per the credit card charge. That includes building permit applications and business license applications, the utility billing and such, and some of the bills that are paid online are pretty substantial. Most cities pass that direct cost on directly to the person utilizing the service. So we don't have a say in that if a credit card is used because of the services that are used, even if it's in person, we are charged a fee. And so the decision that the only way to not have that fee is if somebody comes in person and pays cash or in check. But if any payment is paid online, there is a fee incorporated, either if they pay by check, the check is a lesser fee than a credit card fee. But that is imposed on, and our budget as it is, that's a significant hit to us paying for the services that we're paying for based on those fees. And so we have pursued looking at, but I wanted to make sure that I'm bringing this before you as the council to affirm that I've taken us down this course. Because I believe that if you are utilizing the service, it is a convenience to be able to pay online. It's a convenience to be able to pay with a credit card versus the check or in person and cash. For us, it's supposed to cover your usage. And so the service fee on top of it means that you have some citizens that are not paying for their usage, because that full percentage comes off of what we receive to cover the expense of the services. And so I wanted to make sure that I'm bringing that before the council and letting you guys know that I put it under action items. Some cities haven't had the council make the decision, but I wanted to bring it before you guys to verify that I was following your intent that, generally speaking, that fees go to the person that's utilizing the services.
Well, they charge you a fee when you use your credit card at the stores anymore.
Yes,
So how do you plan on dealing with that? I mean,
it will just be on the website, so if somebody goes on, it'll show right there what the service fee is to use the credit card. They're also online given the option to make, use a payment by check. And so that fee would also be listed there so they can see before they do it. And we'll make sure the website says, that if you don't want to pay an additional fee, that you are welcome to come in and pay by check or cash.
Okay, so the check is only online.
Correct. The fee for, those are online fees that we do not control. And this is the direct exact fee that would be passed on to the person paying it. We're not making a penny off of it. It's just exactly what the cost is for using the service.
And what is the cost?
It's 3%.
3%.
Which the city's paying.
3% of the amount of.
should we put a little note on the bill that we mail out, or we don't even, some of them don't even get those, do they?
No.
No, well, that won't work.
So, I mean, we can include it in the newsletter that the change is happening, so that we're letting everybody know. But at the same time, essentially, it means that some people are paying their full bill and others are not.
Yeah.
By the way it is right now, and I did just send out something to other cities, the city manager listserv, and I couldn't find anybody that's not charging the credit card fee back to the users.
Makes sense.
Some cities eat the cost of the check online. I don't think we're in a place to do that. I think that it's one of those things that if you pay online, the cost of paying online should go on the person paying online.
I agree.
Do you need a motion on that?
It doesn't hurt. I questioned if I had, I believed I had the authority to do it. At the same time, I wanted to bring it to you guys, so it's double covering if you do.
You want a motion on that?
Yeah,
You want us to do your job for you, is what I'm hearing.
I do. I want your affirmation that I'm on the right path.
I'll make
Okay,
a motion to change our finance fee policy.
A second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Roll call.
Counselor Bishai.
Yes.
Counselor Bergen.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yeah.
Counselor Rigney.
Yes.
Counselor Stancliff.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item C, under 6, action item.
I wanted to give you an update. Last month, I brought before you a request to get approval, and the council did support me putting in a grant application with the Four-Way Foundation for a reader board. In the meantime, I was also addressing some other projects that were coming before us, and I could not get a response for the bid for the reader boards. The deadline was coming for the Four-Way Foundation application for the year, and that was yesterday. We hosted a training for foundation grant writing, and I asked the question, what do I do if I got my council's blessing, but for a different project? We've had something come up that I believed was more urgent, but I won't have a meeting before we go, and they said, you can have 2 of your council members sign that. And for me, and transparency is I want to bring it back before you and let you know what I've done. So one of the things that has come up, I've had 2 different groups come and assess our building for energy and ADA and access. Our front doors are original to the building and they're broke and hard to find parts or replacements. They do not meet code, not just for Americans with Disability Act, but also fire escape code. And so I was trying to pursue if I could find a way to do the cost for both of the city entrances for our tenant and us. The cost for one entrance, it was a little over $9,800, and the grant limitations are $10,000. So I, in order to meet the deadline, reached out to 2 of our council to get that request, I want to bring it back before you guys. But I believe the safety in our building is a higher priority than a reader board in the community at this time. And that the deadline for the full year's funding. We will get an initial call in about 10 days. And then they'll do a site visit. We will have a final answer if we're awarded the grant by May. And then if we get the grant, my hope is that we'll have new doors by June. So, but because the full council voted on the initial one, I would like, the council's blessing on amending that request to change what the grant application was to cover the front door.
You want a motion on that too?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion for the grant application amended projects.
Second.
City Hall door replacement.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Beerside,
Yes.
Counselor Berggren,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yeah,
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Stanley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So the goal will be ADA and, able to be opened. So win-win.
Yeah.
Yes, not without having to have friends push it with you. So.
We're gonna need new paperwork to sign,
No, we don't.
but it just passed and we signed it
We
before.
were
it passed.
legit. So for the grant application, I was within the rules and we're okay.
Okay,
For my accountability to you, my bosses, I wanted to make sure that full transparency, I brought it back to you and let you know what happened. So this was just for the public's sake and yours. For the grant application, we meet that requirement already. We're okay.
okay. Item D, under action items.
So go ahead.
This I've already talked to Joel and I talked to Ricky Martin and Sherry. And they seem to be okay with that Rick Martin and Sherry would be on the Parks and Recreation Committee as liaison. Joel would be on the planning. Since he was already on the planning, committee at that time, he'd be a great fit for that. And I know you're still with So Ready, RB thank you. And,
Any appointments for the charter task force? We don't have enough applications yet for committee members, but we can allow the council liaisons for that.
right, I haven't talked to any of them about that.
what days are those?
We don't have it set yet.
We don't have it set yet.
Were you asking about the parks? When is the
Oh,
parks?
the next meeting is Wednesday, the 13th. So clarify, Mayor, I hear you saying that you are appointing Counselor Martin and Counselor Stancliff to Parks.
Yes,
And Counselor Berggren to the Planning Commission.
yes.
Okay, and then, the next Parks meeting is, officially, it was gonna be on my city manager report. They meet on the second Wednesday of the month now, at 3 o'clock here. And so our next meeting will be the 13th.
3 o'clock?
So that is right after my surgery.
Okay,
I may or may not.
Well, that's okay.
You've got it back.
You got it back up.
The second Wednesday is the 10th.
I said the wrong date. Forgive me. Second Wednesday, the 10th. I don't know why I was thinking 13th. Because last month might have been 13th. So whatever the second Wednesday is, that's what it is.
It is what it is.
That's really right after, so I am not.
Oh, it is the 10th, yes.
And then I have a question.
You got it back up.
On the planning commission, is that next week or following? Because next week I'll be in Minnesota.
So it's in the third week of the month.
Okay, so. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, that's been taken care of. Now, any
Do you-
reports?
Do you want to inquire if any of the counselors have an interest in the other one for appointments?
On the
Get them all
task
done?
force,
Mhm.
on the charter, everybody catch that question? Does anybody have would like an interest on being part of the charter review task force, where we go through the charter and we rewrite and bring it up to date?
I'm here.
I would.
And, I would.
And I'll be a backup unless we don't have enough.
We're allowed to have two counselors and the mayor per the resolution that was passed.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Joe, Malia, and myself.
You're appointing those, right? Okay. And we will bring back to the full council for the citizen members. We're
Mhm.
still, the application was, got online just this last week, so we're still looking for applicants for 3 openings on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. We are looking for a planning commissioner, and we are looking for our charter task force review members. So we have received some applications, but we'd like some more to have a robust conversation.
Yes. Anything else?
Not on that topic.
Okay, so reports from counselors. Do I have anything from counselors?
I can report from MRMPO, not a whole lot new there, but I think we're getting closer to seeing a design plan for the bridge. Not imminent, but closer. And 2026 is still the anticipated start date for that. Candu's gearing up for cleanup day and, yard sale, April,
May 11th.
May 11th and May 18th, right, okay. And then, of course, Fest Day, coming up on June 1st. Put that day on
Yay.
the calendar, yes, nice. That's all I have.
What's I do the gold this year? Sorry.
Did we have a parks meeting? I don't remember.
Parks meeting.
We did. Go ahead.
Just a question on gold days. Do we get together as a group and go to that event or can do, because I was asking probably.
No, just-
Bike show.
It's a community event, so
So, okay.
Yeah.
I'll get.
Yeah. we're gonna put you in the parade.
Yeah, no, it's new.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah. This year I got a slingshot with hard candy for kids. No, I'm kidding.
Do a duct tape, yeah.
It was really fun.
You know, this is being recorded. Just letting you know.
Have fun, right?
All right, do I have any other questions, concerning reports from the councilors? City
No,
manager,
Wait a minute. I'm gonna report what I remember from the parks meeting from a long time ago, because apparently I didn't write it down. Don't remember a lot. Help me out here.
It'll be okay. The minutes will come out soon and we'll get it to the
Okay,
council.
good. There you go.
thank you. All right, city manager report.
My first and most fun thing to report is my dog had puppies starting at 3:45 this morning.
Yay.
And, so I have 6 fur babies at home to get to. I wanted to, give you an update on, I heard back from the State Fire Marshal's office and, Red Cross, who's offered to help, canvassing in our community and kind of how they're doing that. They did have the Defensible Space, workshop down at the library last Thursday. It was very well attended, but not from anybody from Gold Hill. But
Maybe
that's
not from the city or from, who attended?
people from all over Jackson County.
And when was it? What time?
It
4
4
o'clock, yeah.
4 to 5, and that's hard for people to attend for work. I get that. I'm going to be posting on Facebook again, what Red Cross gave us, that someone could scan a QR code. Or they can sign up to have somebody come and do an educational review of the property. It's not a true assessment like Fire District 3 does, but they're gonna be going on April 20th and canvassing and seeing if anybody wants to have somebody just review the property. And for, defensible space, wildfire risk, they'll come back on May 4th and actually do those educational opportunities. And there'll be an opportunity for people to sign up with Fire District 3. There's still a goal to have, we're gonna have the 5 30-yard bins, for the cleanup day. Fire District 3 is paying for, 3 and Candu is paying for 1 and the city's paying for 1. With the opportunity to focus on some areas of, If you see an evergreen, the idea is to have at least 4 foot off the bottom or and above a fence. You know, you want 5 foot space around a home. You want your gutters clean, you want vents over, you know, keeping things, out of the house. So if embers are flying, you're safe, your house won't go up. And so there's gonna be opportunities to, just get an educational review or an assessment with Fire District 3. I did also want to say that in the last Parks meeting, I requested and the group agreed to go from the first Wednesday of the month, so I don't have meetings 2 days in a row. And then to the second week, so now it'll be the second Wednesdays of the month. Grant updates. Our water intake grant with our going through Atkins Engineering went out to bid. So now we're awaiting back for bid responses.
Is that the $1 million one?
Nope, this is just to replace our intake structure, which is just great. You need to be able to pull the water out of the river. And so this is an opportunity to do that. And then separately, we heard back from Business Oregon on our SIP grant, which is, we're asking for funding to study our water rates and system development charges. They asked for an amended application. We got that back to them. They affirmed what we sent. They forwarded it to Oregon Health Authority, who also has a say in water. And they're going to rank us. And so we'll see if we get that money back. It's essentially about a $20,000 grant ask to cover the study of our system development charges and water rates. I did get with the help of a volunteer who had offered to try to help us with the grant writing, get the Four-Way Foundation grant application in. Thank you, counselor, who volunteered to help grant write. And then we also were put under the gun to get a prioritization report into the governor's office regarding the $1 million water ask and its connection and nexus to housing. And so we got that in on time, and we hopefully will be getting started. But so that's kind of the status of those grant updates at this time, and we'll hopefully hear back soon on some of those. So lots of meetings this month. The director of ODOT came down, and with the Oregon Transportation Commission, which is kind of cool because Julie, who's the head of RVTD, is the chair of the Oregon Transportation Commission. So to have someone from Medford be the chair of a statewide commission is pretty much an honor that we can have somebody representing us in that capacity. But the biggest message that they shared was that fuel tax revenue is down and costs are up. The number I heard was 80% with inflation right now of where it used to be. And so they are trying to discuss other options on how we can pay for our road system. And the legislature came through with a general fund allocation to ODOT, which never happens. But realizing the need of covering some emergency maintenance things, they came through with that. So it's a big talk. We'll see what happens. It was neat to have the director of ODOT all the way down here talking to the RV Act and groups. So I'm still having regular meetings with our volunteer hub group via Can Do, and we're getting close to having that lined up. Also, had a big meeting with Business Oregon. They're going to be the ones that are overseeing the $1 million allocation to us and kind of blessing each step by step. It is somewhat in a reimbursement step that as we get the invoice, we can ask for reimbursement. They'll give us the money and we can pay the invoice. So it's not something that we will have the direct allocation in full. It'll be a go along the road. And so they're going to be making sure that all the allocations are taken care of appropriately. And so we had that meeting, as well as they wanted to discuss where we were at with the loans from the sewer service and our transfer of our fund dollars to them after the annexation. We're still in process of getting those final numbers taken care of. We did host a training that was funded by the Ford Family Foundation to Rogue River and Gold Hill and Grants Pass nonprofit all attended to help us understand board basics and also successful applying for foundation grants. And so that was beneficial, I think, to, see that, so we hosted here. And, glad we were able to support some of our local nonprofit and volunteer organizations to be there for that as well. I'm just over halfway through, the one-on-ones with the council members, trying to do that quarterly, if not more often. I know you guys are welcome to contact me anytime, and we talk often. But I want to be intentional, at least quarterly, to sit down with you guys. And so I got a couple that, thank you for letting me reschedule on Puppy Watch. I know that's silly, but you know, I don't have kids, I have a puppy. So,
Same thing.
Yep. So there's two, manager meetings, public managers meetings that I attend locally, and they're attended kind of with the same group, but also different. One is hosted by RVCOG that has some of the other organizations in it. The other one is just managers of city and county managers, in Northern California, Southern Oregon. And so those meetings are happening still. And several meetings with the Southern Oregon Water Tech and our engineers, relating to all these water projects that are going on. And then our planner and meeting with them. I have proposed to RVCOG that maybe we can host the planner, but only when somebody comes and meets with her, that it would be on our bill. Because right now, we're on pause for having the planner be here at City Hall because we were paying the hourly rate of $200-something per hour, and nobody was coming in yet. And so we're trying to find a way that it could be a win-win where we can have somebody available when need be, but also not break the bank. And so we're still in discussions. It's not through yet, but that's okay. Had a meeting today with DEQ on an update on the Powerhouse project. Originally, the city had been the recipient of a $60,000 grant. The city was unable to manage it or put out to bid for the contract. The city requested DEQ take over and facilitate under their procurement process that they already had in place. And they had contractors in place. So Mall Foster took on some of the projects for them. In the meantime, one of the first things they had to do was to do engineer assessment of the safety of the building. It was determined to not be safe to be in the wind, and the recommendation was the building to be taken down. And in the meantime, there's some other hazards that had been identified on the property: asbestos, lead pipes, or lead paint on some different things and such. So some of the costs were a little higher, that in the process of the roof is rotted. It will have to be wrapped and dealt with by asbestos standards to be taken out of there. And another grant was requested to do the soil samples. We will have the samples done in May, and the report back to us that will be what the cost of removing the building portion, the dangerous situation would be by summertime. The steps of what to do after the hazards are dealt with really will come down to us finding funding. And so they have requested a foundation to see if they're interested in contributing towards the cost. There was a visioning done by EPA at some point, and there's been talk about there being kind of like a viewing platform or something like that. But the cost of all of those steps will be significant, as well as the demolition of some of the unsafe stuff will be pretty significant. So the next phase potentially will be grant applications and seeking funds. There is potentially some revolving loan funds that we could apply for, but it's competitive, and there's some different things there. So right now, where we're at is mid-cycle of this current grant the DEQ is doing on at the city's request. And the soil sample report will be back in May, as well as the cost for next steps. So we can know where we're at with that one. So that's the update with the Powerhouse. I think that's all of my report at this time.
All right, do we have anything for the good of the order? No questions.